Welcome into this fireside chat edition of Seattle Seahawks Today, powered by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. So glad to have you with us. Coming up on today's program, we will be breaking down the NFC West as we've had some very interesting developments occur in the last several days with the NFL trade deadline. We will go over each team's situation and how things are stacking up coming up in just a matter of moments. We'll start with your Seattle Seahawks. Then we'll head to Arizona and check in on the Cardinals, followed by the Niners and the LA Rams. All that and more in just a matter of moments. Before we go any further in today's show, though, folks, want to make sure you subscribe to Seattle Seahawks Today as we're bringing you daily coverage on your team that you won't find anywhere else with our news and rumors, sometimes 2 and 3 videos a day, our live shows on Wednesday afternoons, our watch parties every game day. We're also bringing you breaking news, Q&A mailbags, and more. It's all right here on the channel. And the bosses want to know, can we get 50 subscribers off of today's video? I would love to show them that we can make that happen, that we can start the month of November strong. Let's get 50 new subs and lock us in, even on the bye week. Still keeping you up to date with everything on your Seattle Seahawks. Subscribe now for free. You'll be glad you did. Let's start with the Seattle Seahawks. A 4-5 record coming off of 2 straight losses, but they did make some big moves in the last couple of weeks leading into the trade deadline. And one of the things that I talked about on this show over the last several weeks was that with the trade deadline moving back to Election Day this year, November 5th, that we were going to see some trades where teams were not necessarily going to wait around for the trade deadline to get their business done. That they, if they saw a trade that they liked, were going to go ahead and jump on it and say, why wait? Let's just go ahead and bring these players in now. That way we can get them here, get them acclimated as quickly as possible and go forward from there. And that's what Seattle did with the moves that they made, bringing in defensive tackle Robertson-Harris, along with linebacker Ernest Jones IV. And Robertson-Harris we saw more of this past week. And we also saw Ernest Jones IV just really step into his own. Has taken on a significant role. And I think both these trades, considering what the Seahawks gave up, not really a ton in actuality of things here, has already worked out pretty well for Seattle with those moves. And the biggest, of course, being the Ernest Jones deal. They upgraded from Jerome Baker, and they have a guy that is just now entering the prime of his career that I fully expect him to extend. The comparison I've made is that he's kind of this year's Leonard Williams. He's somebody that you traded for to add to your defense before the trade deadline, and it's a player that you expect to be here for a long time. This is not a rental. This is a long-term investment. And I applaud the Seahawks for not bending the knee to some of you out there that were wanting this team to tank and be sellers and all that. They said, no, we're going to be buyers. We're going to be aggressive. And you look at what's ahead for the coming weeks. I know they're in last place in the division, but they're not far off compared to everybody else right now. When they come back from the bye week, you take on San Francisco on the road. Obviously going to be a tough challenge. Then you play the first place Arizona Cardinals. That game at home. Seahawks have had a good track record as of late against Arizona. Then you play at the Jets to begin the month of December. And the Jets are playing better football, but I'm still not buying in necessarily to what the Jets are doing. Arizona again, that time on the road. Green Bay at home on Sunday Night Football. That's going to be a tough test. That Green Bay Packers team, I think, is one of the better teams in the NFC. Minnesota, I think, has come back down to earth. That game's more manageable. You get them at home, and then you end the regular season with back-to-back road games. You face the Chicago Bears on the day after Christmas on Thursday Night Football. The Bears, their offense is okay with Shane Waldron calling the shots there, but that defense is atrocious. And then you wrap up with the LA Rams, who I think the Seahawks, despite the loss, are better than the LA Rams, that they got in their own way. That the Rams didn't win that game. The Seahawks lost that game this past week. I think they can win that. So the schedule, not easy the rest of the way, but it is, I think, far too early to write off this Seahawks team, and I think that we have every reason to believe that their best football is in front of them, that they can figure some things out. I think they did a pretty decent job managing this trade deadline situation. Will the Seahawks make the playoffs? That is our pinned comment today. I want to know, do you think this team's a playoff team? Y for yes, N for no. Way in the comment section. Let us know if you think they will make the postseason or not. Before we go any further in today's show, let me tell you about our sponsor. That is Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the place to go for daily fantasy made easy. Choose 2 or more players at any given category. Get the choice of more or less, whether you're talking fantasy points in football, rebounds in basketball, goals in hockey, all sorts of different categories to choose from. And Prize Picks has got a great deal they're offering. They will give our Seahawks Today viewers $50 to use for free when you spend $5. You don't even have to win to get the money on Prize Picks. So what are you waiting for? Play along with us now. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Promo code CLNS. This week, I know the Seahawks are off, but I still got some action on Prize Picks as I'm rolling with Patrick Mahomes to have more than 235.5 passing yards against Denver. Going with Bo Nix to have less than 24.5 rushing yards. If I put $20 down, both these hit, that turns into $60 on Prize Picks. Play along with me, prizepicks.com/CLNS, promo code CLNS. The link is in the comments and the description of today's video. Prize Picks, proud partner of Seahawks Today. All right, let's shift gears now. Let's head to Arizona and talk about the Arizona Cardinals. In first place in the division, I think definitely the biggest surprise of this divisional race here in 2024 is what Jonathan Gannon and this Cardinals team has done. And they got off to a slow start to the season. So they've been playing some better football as of late. They made one move. They added Baron Browning to the linebacker position. And Jonah Williams, their offensive lineman, got put on, he just returned from injured reserve. So basically 2 additions there. You get help on the offensive line. You bring in Browning as well to help that linebacker room for Arizona. And you look at the rest of the way for the Arizona Cardinals of what they have in store. Very similar to Seattle when it comes to their schedule. You play the Jets this week. They get the Jets at home, though. Then they have their bye week, and then they play at Seattle, at Minnesota, Seattle again, and then they play New England. New England's not very good. The Seahawks obviously got that win week 2 against New England. Then they play Carolina. Carolina, one of the worst teams in football, maybe the worst team in football, and then LA and San Francisco. So the schedule very similar to what Seattle has down the stretch, but I think it's more manageable because you got a few more easier opponents with facing New England and Carolina, among others. And I wonder what the health status is of Kyler Murray. Can he stay healthy throughout the season? Is Marvin Harrison Jr. going to continue to develop? I think they're the biggest unknown when it comes to this divisional race is what Arizona is going to look like. At 5-4, I wasn't buying it. I still think it's a little fluky what they've done, but they've been better than I expected at this point in the season, so I'm not counting out Arizona at this point in time. Let's head to San Francisco now and talk about the 49ers. The Niners sitting at 4-4, and this Niners team, the expectation among the rest of the National Football League heading into 2024 was that they were going to be the favorites in the NFC again, that they were the team to beat. You get a slow start out of the gates. They did beat Seattle on the road in a game where, what do you know, the Seahawks had a lot of self-inflicted wounds where they got in their own way, and had they cleaned up the little stuff, this could have been a different football game potentially. Now you look at what's ahead. You add Khalil Davis. They traded for him from the Houston Texans. I don't think that's a huge trade. But more importantly for this Niners team is getting CMC back. Christian McCaffrey returns from injured reserve. He has not played this entire season, and when he's been out there, he's been their entire offense. And you look at this Niners offense not having Brandon Ayuk out there. Deebo Samuel hasn't looked that great this season to this point. George Kittle doesn't look like his old self either. If Christian McCaffrey is fully healthy, this could change everything for San Francisco potentially. And you look at the rest of the way, though. their schedule, you get a bye week that they just had this past week. Then you play at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is no slouch. I think that Baker and company is a pretty decent football team there. Then you play Seattle. You play at Green Bay, which will be tough. At Buffalo, and Buffalo is one of the best teams in football. Then you face Chicago at home, the Rams at home, at the Dolphins. Dolphins aren't very good. Seattle already beat the Dolphins. San Francisco should, in theory, win that game. You get the Lions at home. That's a toss-up game. Based on the way they've played this year, I would lean towards Detroit, but we'll see how far along San Francisco is by that point. And then they finish up the year at Arizona. So the big question, the Niners have been the best of any of these teams in recent years of figuring things out in the second half of the season. Is that going to happen again? That remains to be seen. But if you're the Niners, I think you have reason to be optimistic with where you're at, knowing you haven't played that well and you're getting your best football player back here as you head towards the second half of the season. We'll talk about the LA Rams in just a moment, but I want to ask you guys first, who is going to win the NFC West? Will it be Seattle? Will it be San Fran, Arizona, or LA? Get in that comment section, drop a team, and let us know who you think walks away with the division title. All right, let's finish off with the Los Angeles Rams. The Rammies, with a 4-4 record, got the win against the Seahawks last week in overtime, 26-20. Puka Nacua has made his return from injured reserve. They did just trade Tre'Davious White from the corner position. They sent him off to Baltimore. And that trade, I don't think, is a huge loss for the LA Rams, though, because they weren't really using White a ton in that defense. So they get him out of there. They get the Ravens to take that contract and exchange draft picks and all that. I don't think that's a huge loss. What I wonder with the LA Rams is what are they going to look like here in a few weeks? Because Cooper Kupp has had his injury issues. We've already seen it this year. Stafford's had problems staying healthy in the past. And then Puka Nacua, we mentioned, has even been banged up this year. Can they keep healthy, especially with this team built with these older players? Are they going to be able to get through the gauntlet of these next few weeks, or are things going to catch up with the LA Rams? And that remains to be seen. You look at what they have ahead. They play the Dolphins this week. That should be a win. You play at New England. That should be a win. Tough game against Philadelphia. I think I lean towards Philadelphia there. They play at New Orleans. New Orleans is just awful. They should win that. You play Buffalo. I would favor Buffalo. That game in L.A., though, at San Fran, at New York, Arizona, and Seattle. Of all the teams in the division at this point, the Rams have the toughest schedule remaining. They have the toughest path to get to a division title at this point. So it's an older team that's had probably more injury issues than anyone else in this division so far this year, and they have the toughest schedule. So that's what's ahead for the Rams. It is going to be a difficult road for them to figure things out. But all in all, as I look at this, I think all these teams are in very similar situations. I think I would lean towards the Niners just based on recent history and getting Christian McCaffrey back. But this is wide open. This is anyone's ball game as the Seahawks are on their bye week and they get to sit back, rest up, let everyone else hopefully go out there and lose and then get back on track for your game against San Francisco in Santa Clara next week. So I got to tell you, it's going to be a lot of fun. It's very interesting. I have no idea completely how this is going to play out. I think San Francisco has a slight advantage, but if you're the Seahawks here, you look at it and you're about to get DK Metcalf back. That'll be huge. You're about halfway through this system of just still getting acclimated to this new offensive and defensive scheme. I think there's reason to be hopeful if you're a Seahawks fan that this team's going to turn it around and get things going as they head towards the second half of the year. Appreciate you joining us here on Seahawks Today. For continuing Seahawks coverage, subscribe now to Seattle Seahawks Today. I'm Tyler Jones. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.